everyone. In this video we're going to be doing another user requested demonstration of how to create a specific shower product using our Infinite Water tool for ArchiCAD. So this here on the left is the product that the user wants to incorporate into their design. On the right we have our Infinite Water tool. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the tool and we're going to look for something that's similar. So it's a good starting point. We're currently on our bench mounted type, so we've only got all the taps, sinks and basin configurations. So we want to set this to custom so we can unlock the mounting type and move to our wall. Now that gives us access to a different database. So now when you go in here, you'll see we have a series of different wall mounted product types. And here is the shower that I was referring to. This is a standard rail shower with a handheld shower head. So we'll select that element. Now, what happens when you're changing these databases, especially if you're jumping between two very different types of elements? We don't have access to the shower database down here yet because it hasn't been reloaded. So basically what you need to do is you just need to reload these shower databases for these minor components by clicking on the download cloud. Okay, so now that we've got that all sorted with the databases imported and the element showing up correctly, we now need to customize it. So the first thing we need to do is revert this to custom. We also then need to revert these two items. So up here we have the configuration types. So these are our shower rail, shower hand, and so on, the different configuration types for wall mounted elements. And this is the actual style. So this is the component catalog element. So we need to set these items to custom as well so we can modify them. Connections and the bracket as well. Now in this element there is no tap set, so we might even turn this tap off. So we'll just set that to custom at the moment. Then we can go into these individual items and start connecting them. But first I want to go turn the tap off. So I'm just going to go to the next page and I'm going to turn off the taps. Alright, let's have a look in 3D, see where we're at. Okay, so it's a relatively similar element. We've got a slightly flatter and bigger shower head here, and we need to add a shower head on top. We've got a plumbing connection there, so this plumbing connection and a plumbing connection down here, and then a bracket element there, and this is a plumbing pipe all the way up to that shower head. Okay, so we've got some good measurements here. I'm just going to measure the distance out from the wall for the center line of this element. Okay, so we've got a 30 mil, and that comes out to 46. So the difference between this element and our element is we've got the one plumbing connection here, and then these are all part of the bracket. So that's bracket, bracket, and then this rail is a bracket. So they're not plumbing items. So the first thing we want to do is we want to adjust this plumbing fixture so it's the same as this element here, and then we want to duplicate it and move it down and replace this bracket element here. Let's go to our connection. So this connection is simply one revolve. There is no geometry 2 piece or 3 or 4, so it's one simple piece. We can go to our connection element and say that individual revolve is the complete connection, so we want 2 of that complete connection. Okay, and then we get a second value up here, down here. So this first one is at 700 high and minus 50. This original one will be at 0, and the height, we might even leave that at 0. We'll see where we're at. I think it's this little element in here, so let's have a look. Okay, so it's that element there, so this connection. You can measure all these distances exactly, but it's probably also something that's very flexible within the design, so you might want to adjust it as per your specific situation. So what I'll do now is I'll raise this up, so I'll try and get a similar effect to here. So I'll raise this up rather than bringing it down here. So that would be the Z position, and we'll just raise it up 100. So now we want to go into this revolve and we want to adjust it. To do that, we do that in the 2D view. So let's click OK and go to 2D, expand this, and this is our element right here. So I'm just going to rotate that then now in order to bring up the 2D guides that allow you to manipulate the geometry, we need to go to our 2D representation and turn off this 3D projection. Click OK, and now we have access to all our guides. It looks a bit messy, so you know it kind of is, but you can pretty quickly find the different guides. So you can see these are our two connections. They're identical. They have individual hotspots, but they are identical elements. So we want to go and mimic this element here, which is 54, 40. Set this element to half of 54. It's currently at 30, which gives us a 60 diameter, so we want that to be 27. Have a quick look in 3D. And there you can see we've now got the correct plumbing connections. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to organize our bracket element. So let's go back here, let's go to our bracket and have a look at what we've got. So we've got two of this first piece of geometry, and it's the revolve, so it'll be the two connection points of the bracket. And then we've got the large rail piece, which is an extrude that'll probably have, yeah, it's an extrude of a circle. Okay, so now what we really want to do here to be accurate is that rail should not be part of the rail, but it should be part of the spout because it is actual pipe work. So I'm going to turn off element 2. I'm also going to go back, and we only have one of this element 1 for our bracket, and at the moment it's at 0, so we have a look at where the bracket is at. Go back to the assembly page, and our bracket is sitting up at 800. Let's have a quick look at this. So the bracket's pretty high up in this one. If that point there is 100 mil above 0, 0 is somewhere down here, so this bracket would be 860, and it is 27 by 45. It's a very simple shape. Let's go back into this element, go to our bracket, which is at 860, go into the bracket element. It's a revolve, it's got a lot of nodes to it. Let's see if we can see it in 2D. Often, as you might have seen in the other videos, you need to change the positioning of the element so you can actually get access to its nodes in 2D. And I believe it's this element here, so that line going through here, pretty sure that's it. So let's adjust that. Have a quick look in 3D. Okay, so we've got our correct point up there. There's another element in this bracket. Oh, that's holding the shower head. Okay, that's correct. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to put in this pipework that goes up to the shower. So let's have a look at that. So it's a 19 mil diameter pipe that runs up from this point here up to the shower, around 400 mil diameter through that. Okay, and the shower height, if that was 870, our shower connection is going to go to that point there before it straightens up this diameter. That's another 210, 200. Okay, so it's 200 above that. So let's go back into the element. Now, this is where the decision making gets fairly critical. If we have a look at the assembly of this element, so we don't have any taps, we don't need taps. We've got the one spout, which is our handheld shower with its pipework. We've got the connections, which are the two connections which we have done. And we've got the bracket, which is just that one anchor point on the wall. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to go into our spout because we need a second spout. Now, if we just make this a second spout, then it'll duplicate the one that we've already got, and we want something completely different. So that's where you have to be careful about the geometry that you choose to build with. So the best way to explain this, what you have access to, is by looking at this menu here. Let me just bring this over a little bit. So each element, taps, spouts, connections, and brackets, have 4 pieces of geometry that you can use. Each of those pieces of geometry has a matter and a void. However, that void can also be a solid element. So it's using the group functions in GDL to either subtract, add, intersect the element. So let's have a look at this. So you can subtract this geometry from the matter, the void from the matter, hence void and matter. You can add the void to the matter, so the void actually becomes matter. Or you can create the intersection between the matter and the void. So typically we use it for subtract. However, if we use it for add, it effectively gives us access to, instead of 4 pieces of geometry, it gives us access to 8. So we have access to 8 pieces of geometry. 4 of those can be negative geometry. What we have done in this element with our spout is we have used solid geometry. So we have our revolve and we have a tube. So if I turn this off, you'll see that we're missing the handle part of the shower head. Turn it back on. So we've got that handle part back. So this is the handle, this is the head. If we go to the next, spout 2, you can see we've got 2 tubes. Each of these tubes is a piece of this pipe work here. So if I turn this void off, you'll see that's the first piece and the other is the second piece. The reason it's made out of 2 pieces is because in GDL you can't have a tube turn across all 3 axes. So it can move as much as you want on the Y plane or the X plane, so on, but it can't start moving across each plane. So once you've turned it on the Y plane, you then can't turn it on the Z plane, so to speak. It ends up getting twisted. So instead of twisting it, we create 2 pieces of geometry. So our shower head is made out of 2 pieces of geometry, each using the void as a solid. So we're effectively getting 4 pieces of geometry. We now want to do the same approach with the next shower head. However, it's actually going to be part of this element because we don't have 2 separate spouts. So this is something I haven't allowed for. Fortunately, the part still allows us to achieve this. So let's go to Spout Geometry 3. I'll just click OK here and have another look at the drawing. So you can see it doesn't have any variation. So it's easy enough to do this as an extrude all the way up to, in fact, we'll probably do it as a tube. We'll do it all the way around. So we'll start here, we'll do a tube that runs from this point down here, up and all the way around to the shower head, and then the shower head will be a revolve using the second piece. Now remember we have 2 pieces of geometry, which effectively gives us access to 4 pieces of geometry that we can use here. Now you may want to include the little actual holes, which I don't necessarily advise because it's too much unnecessary geometry, but you could do that. So you might want to reserve some geometry for that. So you might want to make this out of 2 pieces and this element here out of 2 pieces. So this could be an extrude and then a tube, or you could just do it as one whole tube. So let's do the whole tube because that's basically just the most straightforward method. So I'll go back into the settings of our tool. Spout 3 is going to consist of a tube. That's the path, that's the shape. I'm not sure what that shape is representing just yet. I need to turn that on. Okay, so you can see this is the element here. Obviously has nothing to do with what we want at the moment, but we can very easily fix that. First, let's make sure it's not on any angle. See, that's on an angle, so we might not be able to access the 2D nose to edit this element. So we'll turn that tube back to 0. The positioning is irrelevant. Let's just start it at 0 though. Now, what you have to remember is that this element is actually going to be relative to the already existing spout. I show you that in 3D, its 0, 0 point is actually here. So we need to move it from here down to here. So let's go into the settings. Let's come back and have a look at where this spout starts off. So it starts off at x 50 minus 70, 700. So we need to basically combat that in the positioning of the third piece of geometry. So let's go into here, our third piece of geometry, go to the positioning. So we want to be at minus 50 to bring us back to the 0. We also want to be at minus 700, and that was at 70 when it needs to be at 30, so I think we need to be at minus 40 for that. Let's see if I've got that correct. Obviously not. There might be a rotation in there as well that I haven't allowed for. Is there a rotation? Okay, so it's rotated 90 degrees. The x-axis is rotated 90 degrees. So what that means is you've got x, z, and y. So if you're rotating the x-axis 90 degrees, you're coming this way. So that means the y effectively becomes your z, and the z effectively becomes your y. So we need to come back into our spout. So this should be minus 40, and this should be minus 700. It might be positive because, okay, there we go. So we're down at that 0 point now, but we want to actually be 100 above that. So let's go back into here, and that should be just a minus 600. Okay, we're now at the right point. Now what we want to do is we want to draw the actual path of this element and its profile. So let's click OK. So you can see this is it here. So this is the profile and this is the path. The profile is going to be a circle. Okay, and if we have a look up here, we remember that this one was at 200 above this one, which was 870, so this is at 860, sorry. So that's at 1060, so we need to basically come up to 1070, because it was 210 at the end of the curve, and then we curve around and we come back 10 mil. Okay, so this goes up to 1070. This one here goes to also 1070 and 400. Okay, this just controls the end edge. Let's just move that up here. And now we curve this element. Actually, we want to add another node first. So we need to add another node here, and this comes down. We've got 1060, 400. Okay, and then just put that in line with that element. So that last node controls the angle of the last face. So if you want it to be perpendicular, then you keep it in line. Okay, now we add this, gives us our 200, and let's have a look. Okay, so it needs to now be rotated. It's going off in a strange direction. So let's go into the element and let's rotate this. So this can be a little bit of trial and error based on the way other elements have rotated. You know that we've already been rotated 90 degrees, so we need to take that into consideration. This one will be rotating, at the moment I think it's the y-axis, minus 90 degrees, but I'm not too sure. So I'm just going to check that, see what happens. No, so the y-axis is, that's right, the y-axis is going up. X-axis is across. It must be the z-axis. So let's try that. Wrong way. 90. Okay, so that gives us part of our rotation, but it's still going off to the side. So we then need to go x 90 maybe, or minus 90. Okay, it's not x. Y now that the Z's up. There we go. Okay, so a little bit of trial and error, and we're starting to get our configuration. We're going to have to bring this element back in because it actually connects to that pipework. So we'll have to adjust, we're going to have to adjust the positioning of this element, which means we're going to have to adjust the positioning of everything else. So let's do that first, and then we'll do this last revolve, which is the shower head. So we'll go into the settings. Let's go back to our assembly page that controls the overall positioning. So see, this is at -70 at the moment. It needs to be at -30, which means when we set our third piece of geometry at -40 to combat that -70, we should just stay at 0. Okay, so have a look and see what we're at. Okay, so that's in the right position. We might need to adjust the pipework a little, and we need to find out where this must be part of the bracket element. So let's go into the settings, find that bracket piece, bracket geometry 1, 2, 3. So it's this revolve here, and it'll be the positioning 76. That should just be a -30, I believe. Okay, I might actually bring this bracket element down, -200, see if that's good. Okay, -200 looks like about the right position, and therefore this shower element can come out probably another 20 mil. So we go back here. So you can set this as one of these as the overall, or you could set the element itself. So we could leave this at -30 and then come into the spout and go here. It's been rotated, so it's this one. So we could change this to 54. Okay. Alright, so that doesn't affect the other stuff. Then we need to change this pipework as well. So let's go into Spout Geometry 2 and the position -30. Okay, and there's also some issues here with this, so we might need to actually do some adjustments of this geometry. So you can see that there's this main element, so we might want to bring that in line with this connection, and then we can take this second piece and we can rotate it so it connects up to that element. So let's go back into the positioning, and that -30 should be actually just 0, I think. Let's have a look, we probably go a bit further. So that's pretty close to how it connects, and now we just need to go in and adjust this piece. So we can adjust that piece by adjusting the profile or by rotating the element. It might be easier in this case to just adjust the profile. So let's go down to our 2D and find that profile. So it's this element here. So if we just bring that back, okay, F5, alright, now we're back in business. So that is the basic shape there, and we just need to do the final shower rows, which you can take all these different measurements from here. We know we've got 200, I'm going to set these points, I'm going to remember these points. So we've got a 8 mil, 16, 24, so it's going up in 8s until it goes to there, 35. We're actually going to come from, you'd start at this point and revolve down this way, because that's where you connect it from. So let's just go here. It actually looks like this is a separate piece here, and that then can sort of rotate on a ball. I'm not going to go to that level of detail though. So I'm just going to put this last piece on, and if you want you can expand on that and get a little bit higher in the detail. So we're going to go 11, 19, 26, 34, 11, 19, 26, 34, and that's 32. So spout geometry now, so this is our number 3 is our tube, number 4, because I might want to extend that by adding that little ball section, so I'm going to leave that void alone, and I'm going to use number 4 for our Revolve shower head, and that needs to be set to 360 degrees. Okay, let me check the angles to make sure I'm going to be able to modify it. Yep, I want to do the positioning. So the positioning of the spout is going to be at, we've already got 700 and we want it to go up to 1070, 1060. So Z, and then we've been rotated 90 degrees. So this is the Z and that's the Y, I think. So we're at 700, 1060, so we want to go 360. And we want to have X is 0, and this is going to be out at 400 plus the center line of 30, so that should be 430, or I think it's a minus 430. Let's have a look. Oops, better turn it on first. Okay, that's it there. So that's pretty much where we want it. Let's now rotate this. So Revolve travels along the x-axis, so you need to rotate the y-axis minus 90. Turn it up. And we've got an x-axis of 90, so we need to combat that with a minus 90 as well. Okay, and it doesn't look like we've got our positioning right. Oh, because we've already got the positioning of the other element. So the spout, if we have a look back here, the spout is positioned at -30, and we wanted to go out to -430. So we go back to spout, back to our geometry 4. So the position should just be 400. Click OK. 5, have a look. Okay, so we're still centered along that line, so we need to combat that as well. So back to having a look at the spout. So the spout is 50 mil on the x-axis, so we need to go to our spout geometry 4, go to X, and that should be a -50. Alright, now it's in the right position based on that, although the height is still not correct. It must be 100 off because we started at that 100. So that needs to be 460. Remember, we started our connection down here at the 100 above 0, so, and then we rotate it. We don't want to rotate it upwards, we want to rotate it downwards. So when we rotated this y-axis -90, we should have rotated it 90. Because you've got something going along the x-axis, rotating the y-axis -90 turns it up, rotating it 90 turns it down. And as this is a shower head, we want it turned down. Okay, so now we've got the position. Now all we need to do is actually create the correct revolve element. So I'm going to go back into the settings. I'm going to change this material, and then I'm going to go to my angles, set this back to 0 temporarily so I can get access to the guides. So 0, click OK, click OK, 2D. So this is my profile here. Okay, so you notice this doesn't want to go to the 0. So there's an order of the nodes in this element, and these elements that are supposed to be out on the edge don't like to be at 0. So what you have to do is basically move these ones up. Okay, go back into the settings, rotate it back that 90 degrees, and voila! So that is basically the same configuration as this element. Obviously the handheld shower head is a little bit different, so we can go into that now and we can adjust that revolve. That's simply a matter of, if I go F2, let's find the revolve for that shower head. I believe it's probably this element here. So let's go into Spout Geometry 1, have a look at the angles, -90 and 30. I think we can live with that for now. Click OK. Okay, so this is our profile here. So we just simply need to change that profile to to look more like this element. Go back into the settings, set this back to the -90, okay, have a look, and there you go. Almost identical. So you could go into a little bit more effort and try and get everything absolutely spot on identical if that's necessary. However, it's probably not. The general sizes and positions are probably the only critical element, and obviously these plumbing connections where they're located, but that will be something that will be flexible based on your design. So once that's now done, it's a good idea to now go save these elements into your catalog so you can access them at will. So let's do that piece. The best place to do this is on the assembly page, so we can see this is everything. We're going to call this, it's another Astra Walker, I believe. Let's actually find out what it is. So it's the Astra Walker A6724 V4. So that's probably what we should use. I'm just going to call it the AW A67 shower, because I have not been given permissions to represent this company. So go into the settings, and we're going to call this we'll leave it as shower. It's good if, you know, depending on how you're setting up the catalogs, you start all your showers with an acronym SHR or something like that. It just helps organise that, because they are organised into alphabetical order. Shower AW A67. If the user wants to use the actual name of the product, then that's up to them, but I personally can't deliver something as representing a product when I haven't been given permission by that company. Okay, so this is what I'm going to use, so copy that. I'm not going to upload my assembly yet because I haven't configured anything. So first, we go down to the tap. That's just set to custom. I could set that to off. If I haven't saved an off type, but the taps are off, so that'll be controlled in the assembly anyway. Sometimes it's nice to set it to off so you see it locked down to off, and you know that it's controlled and there's not something else in there that you didn't plan on being in there. Okay, so the spout, same thing. Shower AWA670, upload, download, and lock. I might actually do that with the taps turned to off, as soon as they go check all the tap settings. Tap 2, off, tap 3, tap 4. Okay, so all our tap geometries are off. So now when we go back here, we can set this to off, upload, download, and lock. Connection, we're going to use the same name. Load, download, and lock, and the bracket as well. How you name this is up to you. You've got to work out how you want to organise your components and how you want to make them available for other things. The same bracket could be used on multiple different elements, so naming it after a specific assembly is probably not wise, but for this instance it's fine. Okay, so I've got that. Now I can lock all this down into an assembly by hitting upload, download, and lock. Okay, so what we can now very quickly do, I'll just demonstrate this. We'll go back to our catalogs, so you can see we've got all these elements locked and that they're selected. There's no images, so you might want to create an image. The best thing to do is just take a screenshot of the assembly once it's done, save that image with the same name as this element. I'll just show you how we can quickly now switch between. So I can go back to my original assembly that I started with, or I could come and go back to the assembly that we've just created. Okay, so now you can very easily select those items. So let's just go create an image. Oh, firstly also we want to see the normal 2D representation. So let's go to 2D representation, turn on the apply 3D projection, and click OK. So this is how it looks in 2D. Alright, now let's have a look in 3D. You want to get an image of this that's going to be easy to see, and it's kind of hard with this setup being so large. And you just do a quick print screen, select the element, crop it. Now remember, we need a square image so it doesn't get distorted. It doesn't have to be precise, but the more precise it is, the less distortion you'll get. Alright, and now I want to file, save as, and I want to use that same name. Have I still got it in my clipboard? No. So what was it? It was SHR-AW-A67, and I want to save that into Infinite Water, user interface, catalog pics, and hit save. Back in here, let's do a quick reload of the libraries to bring that image into ArchiCAD. Select the element, back to the beginning, and there you can see we've now got that image listed under all our components. Okay, and that is how you create this type of shower configuration. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. I know it sort of seems like it's fairly complex, but once you get into it, it's actually really simple and kind of fun. It does take you probably, initially when you're getting used to it, it might take you up to half an hour, even a little bit longer, to create the exact component you want. If it's as geometry heavy and as complex as this element, the more simple things, especially with the starting points that you already have, you can get the geometry created within sort of 5 to 10 minutes, and then you'll have the exact product that you want to specify and display in your design. Okay, thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell as well so that you are informed every time we release these sorts of videos. See you in the next one.